Alright, today I'm going to be talking about the Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat going to the 2020 NBA Finals. Going into the beginning of the season, nobody had Miami going to the finals, like literally no one. Everyone thought Boston, Milwaukee, or maybe even Toronto could make it back to the finals. But nobody had the Heat making it to the finals, and them making it to the finals proves that the underdogs do make it to the finals. Like, they were the underdogs and they did make it to the finals. Now, I'm going to, of course, cheer for LeBron because, I like LeBron. But you can't deny the fact that the Miami Heat played very well in the bubble, swept Indiana, beat the Bucks, the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year, Giannis Antetokounmpo, in uh, 5 or 6 games. I can't remember. It was one of those two, but they beat them when no one thought um, that Miami had a shot going into it, and that is proof of Miami's determination to make it to the finals. And I believe that Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo will make it very difficult for the Lakers to um, play the series and beat them within. I think it'll be a 7 game series, honestly. I predict it will be a 7 game series. But LeBron going to. I think he was third all time in finals appearances, 10 throughout his 17-year career. And I remember back when he went to um, LA, everybody said, no, 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 stay in the East. It's the easiest path to the finals. But he wanted to prove that he could make it in the West, and he did make it to the finals in the West. Granted, he did have one of the best players in the NBA playing beside him, but that still doesn't take away from the fact that LeBron played great that game. He had, I believe it was 28 points, 10 assists, and 16 rebounds. And so yeah, LeBron going up against his former team, the Miami Heat. Uh, his best friend Dwayne Wade will probably be rooting against him because Dwayne Wade is Miami. Everything about Miami. Dwayne Wade is the man of Miami. And I just see that. It's going to be a 7 game series, I think. Also, Andre Iguodala makes it to 6 straight NBA Finals. 5 with the Warriors, of course, and his first with Miami after the trade from Memphis to Miami. And obviously, I hope the Lakers play better than I'm playing right now, but I'm not just playing, I'm just doing this as a gameplay thing, but I'm trying to, commentate. And, can we talk about the Celtics, though? Celtics losing when they didn't have a reason to. Gordon Hayward, as a side note, Gordon Hayward missed the birth of his son to let Tyler Hero drop 38 points on him. And that's just unacceptable. Because I don't think the Boston really had it in them this year, or they would have played better. I just don't think they really wanted it. But Miami clearly wanted it. They fought against all odds and are making it to the NBA Finals when literally everyone didn't even think they would be this good. But Jimmy Butler clearly has led this Miami team to be um, very well rounded and very determined to play better and to just stop listening, or just don't listen to like the haters and stuff. And in fact, Jimmy Butler bought all his teammates basketball hoops when this season was shut down to continue practicing. And you know how some players brought their families with them and all that? Jimmy Butler did not bring his family with him. He said this is a business trip for him. And that just shows how determined he is, that he's not going to let anything distract him from his job. His job is to play basketball, and I guess he didn't want his family there because it would be a distraction to him. But I still think it would be a 7-game series because I think Miami, they have a lot of 3-point shooters, and the Lakers kind of don't. But then again, the Lakers have, in my opinion, who should have been Defensive Player of the Year? Anthony Davis should have been Defensive Player of the Year, but they gave it to Giannis. And I think that Anthony Davis guarding, I think he would guard Bam because, well, Bam plays center and Anthony Davis plays power forward, but I think they would put Anthony Davis on Bam because that just seems to be the right choice to me. And I think that it will be a 7-game series. Jimmy Butler has played extremely well this season. I believe he was an All-Star. I can't remember for fact, but I think he was an All-Star. I'm pretty sure he was an All-Star, and well-deserved All-Star. And the Miami Heat have passed everyone's expectations. I saw that last night on Twitter somebody found where one of the Lakers players, J.R. Smith, he was not a Lakers player at the beginning of the season. He actually didn't even have a job at the beginning of the season. But Lakers signed him, and he said he felt that the finals would be Lakers and the Miami Heat. And that's exactly how it's gone. So I don't know if he has some sort of inside source or what, but I believe that, as far as I know, I wanted it to be Boston and LA because I want to see a Lakers and Celtics finals once in my lifetime, and I hope to see it. At some point in my life. Obviously, it won't be this time. But I hope one day it will be. I believe that it will be a Lakers and Celtics finals at one point. Just not now, because as I said before, I don't think the Celtics showed a lot of heart and played the way they should have. But while I'm at it, I'm also going to cover the LA Clippers, who going into last season made the playoffs and even took the Warriors, one of the best teams in the NBA, to 6 games in the playoffs. And then right after that, they signed one of the best defenders in the league, Kawhi Leonard, and also trade their entire future for Paul George, meaning they traded 5 first-round picks as well as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for Paul George, a man who did not play very well at all in the playoffs. Like, he played terrible. I mean, he played better than I would have, but if you trade your whole entire future for somebody, they better play like they used to play and make you realize that you did make the right decision trading for them. I think the Clippers lost that trade, and I don't think Kawhi or Paul George will stay with the Clippers. But the Clippers had a 3-1 lead. A 3-1 lead. Meaning they just had to win one more game to advance to the Western Conference Finals. But they blew a 3-1 lead to the Denver Nuggets, who in the previous round came back from a 3-1 series and beat the Utah Jazz in 7. But there is no excuse for the Clippers to blow a 3-1 lead. Two of the best defenders in the league on the same team, and y'all can't close out in a game 5. Like, I don't understand that. Like, if I'm paying you this much money, you better be able to get it done. Like, if I'm the Clippers organization and I'm paying you however much money Kawhi Leonard is making, and I trade my entire future for Paul George, no. Like, y'all need to play. Kawhi needed to play like he did with the Raptors last season, and Paul George needed to play kind of like how he did with OKC. I mean, he wasn't very good. He's never been good in the playoffs, really. But last year, I believe he was 3rd in MVP voting. So that's probably why the Clippers decided to trade for him. Because Kawhi pretty much said, I'm not coming here unless you trade for another star. And they thought, okay, well, we'll get Paul George to come play with you. And he was like, yeah, that sounds good. So they decided to play together. And then they lose in the second round when they had a 3-1 lead. That just makes no sense to me. You have a 3-1 lead and can't get your job done to close out on the Nuggets. But also, it's not even close in Game 7. You lose by, I believe they lost by 20 points or above 20 points. You're telling me y'all lose by 20 points to a team that y'all were better than. Two of the best defenders in the league, and y'all can't shut down Jamal Murray or Nikola Jokic. It was an utter disappointment, the Clippers this season. They played terrible against the Nuggets, and they had no business playing that bad against the Nuggets. No reason whatsoever. If you have a 3-1 lead on a team, you should be able to get it done, regardless of who you're playing against. They say no one has beat a 3-1 or come back from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals. But do you know who did that? LeBron James did in 2017, I believe it was, and came back and beat the Warriors in Game 7. Beat the Warriors in Game 7 and came back. But in the playoffs, other than like the finals, that happens a lot. And Denver technically did it twice because they did it against Utah and then obviously against the Clippers. But there is no reason for you to have two of the best defenders in the league on the same team and you lose to Denver, a team who is unexperienced. Yes, they are very good. I will not deny that fact, but I mean, you have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I mean, granted, Paul George has never won a championship, but Kawhi Leonard has won 2, I believe. 1 in San Antonio and 1 in Toronto. And everyone, after the Clippers signed Paul George, or after they traded for Paul George and signed for Kawhi Leonard, everyone said, oh, it's a done deal. The Clippers are the NBA champions. And they believed that. every Clippers player said it's championship or bust for us. Because I remember watching the press conference with the Clippers where they introduced Paul George and Kawhi Leonard as the newest Clippers. And Paul George said it's championship or bust for us this season. And then after they lost in Game 7 to the Denver Nuggets, a reporter brought that up, and he denied ever saying that. He said, "No, I never said it was championship or bust for us," but clearly he did. When you go back and look at the obvious press conference or whatever interview it was, he said it's championship or bust, and then straight up denies it. Like, if you say something, own up to it. Like, yeah, we lost. We let the Clippers fans down. Which, honestly, there aren't Clippers fans. I don't think there are. I don't understand why LA has to have two NBA teams. Everyone pulled for the Lakers, and then some Lakers fans went to the Clippers to pull for the Clippers, thinking that the Clippers were the better team. And look at who won. LeBron and Anthony Davis. They are on their way to the NBA Finals. When it should have been LeBron versus Kawhi in the Western Conference Finals. And I honestly don't know who would have won. If Paul George played like he did against Denver, then the Lakers definitely would have won, but I think it would have been in like 6 or 7 games. I don't think that it would have been taken that long to beat them. Because the Lakers beat the Nuggets in 5 games, and the Clippers couldn't even beat them in 7 games. Two of the best defenders in the league, and y'all can't beat an inexperienced Denver team? That's just ridiculous and a disappointment. If I were the Clippers, I would trade Paul George for anything at this point. Like, just get rid of him. Because he played terrible, and you need to get rid of him soon. Because he did not play as well as he should have. He did not play like an all-star or the person you traded for. It looked like how in Space Jam they took his basketball skills, how the aliens took the basketball skills of Patrick Ewing and Muggsy Bogues and all that. It looks like that's what happened to Paul George. Like, when Damian Lillard hit that 30-foot three-pointer on the Oklahoma City Thunder to send them home in the playoffs, and Paul George said that Damian Lillard was taking bad shots. Paul George should know a thing or two about bad shots after that Game 7 against the Nuggets. That man shot terribly. I believe he only had 10 points. And if you're paying somebody that much, you better at least score 20 or 30. I mean, make it look like you actually wanted to play the game. Like you wanted to show up. And he clearly didn't care enough to show up and play the game. But on to another topic. The Lakers trading for Anthony Davis in the 2019 offseason. Or no, it was the 2020 offseason. They traded what everyone said was their future in Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, the 4th overall pick in the 2019 NBA draft, and I think 4 other first-round picks for Anthony Davis. And everyone said that, oh, the Pelicans won this trade. No, they didn't, because the Pelicans didn't even make the playoffs. And they got Zion Williamson and the most improved player, Brandon Ingram. And y'all can't play well enough to make the playoffs at least. The Lakers won this trade. I don't care what anyone says. The Lakers won this trade. Yes, they may not be able to keep Anthony Davis this offseason, but if you win a championship, regardless, you win the trade. Regardless of if you keep the player or not, you won the trade. Like how people were saying the Spurs won the Kawhi Leonard and DeMar DeRozan trade. No, the Raptors did. The Raptors won a championship, and even though they lost Kawhi in free agency, they won the trade because they won a championship. And who knows, the Raptors may never make it back to the finals. And that was their one opportunity, and they took advantage of it and played extremely well with Kawhi Leonard. And I believe if Kawhi Leonard would have played the way he did with Toronto, then the Clippers would have made the finals this year and possibly beat the Heat. Well, they definitely would have beat the Heat. I think with 100% certainty, I could say that if the Clippers somehow beat the Lakers and Paul George was playing at his level of where he used to play good, if he was playing at that level and Kawhi Leonard was playing the way he did in Toronto, then I believe 100% that the Clippers could beat the Miami Heat. Yes, Miami has a few good shooters and stuff, but the Clippers have defense. In Miami, I don't really think they have defense. Jimmy Butler and Bam are the only two good defenders, in my opinion, on the Heat. I'm not saying that there might be another defender or two that I'm forgetting about. Well, Andre Iguodala, but let's face it, he's getting old, so he's not as good at defense as he once was. I never watched basketball when he was in his prime, but I know that people say that he was really good, that he was good at defending, and that's why the Warriors basically signed him and made him come off the bench. They said, hey, we know you've been a starter your whole career, but we need you to come off the bench because we feel that your defense is worth coming off the bench. And Andre Iguodala was able to agree to that and come off the bench because in the end it really helped the team better. They played better if he came off the bench, and he realized that, and he was able to agree to that when I don't think a lot of other superstars would have. Like Isaiah Thomas, he wasn't a superstar by any means, but he was getting like MVP voting in his time in with the Celtics. And the reason he doesn't have a job now, I think, is because he always said, I'm not going to come off the bench, I deserve to start. If you're on a team with LeBron James, you're probably not going to start at point guard because back with the Cavs pretty much ran LeBron at point guard. He played small forward, but they ran him at point guard. Like, he is the primary ball handler majority of the time when he played in Cleveland. And I don't think Isaiah Thomas realized that, which is why they traded him to the Lakers. And then he signed with Denver for a year, and then signed with the Wizards, and then got traded to the Clippers this season, and then they cut him because, well, he had been through a lot of injuries, and I'm not going to say that the injuries derailed his career. They probably did. But I'm not going to say that that's the reason they cut him. I just think that if you're going to be a star, you need to play like one and do whatever your team asks of you to do. And I think that all in all, the Lakers will beat the Miami Heat in 7 games. I think I'm going to end the video here because I don't want to. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, and I'd rather not ramble. So I'm going to end the video here. Thanks for watching. This is just my predictions for the 2020 NBA Finals, and as well as some other coverage on other things throughout the NBA that I felt I wanted to speak on. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.